bridges, we don't have the overpasses, we don't have the ports or the airports that are up to speed, that are competitive for now and the future. We're not going to have as much economic opportunity as we should have. So I believe strongly we should really put money into infrastructure, some of it in grants, some of it matching grants, but I am going to push an infrastructure bank so that we have a permanent facility in our country dedicated to working with states, localities, counties in actually doing the physical infrastructure work. And broadband is a big piece of our future competitiveness. Now, when we decided as a nation to electrify our country, what happened was that the electricity through the utility companies went where most of the people were, you know that. And it took Franklin Roosevelt and the Rural Electrification Administration to make sure that the entire country got electricity so that we didn't leave. And if you were to go back at a map in the 30s and the 40s and even the 50s, and you would look at where the REA was working, some of those places now are really successful, but they would have been left behind if the country hadn't invested in getting electricity to everybody. I feel exactly as you do about broadband. We don't get broadband to everybody, and high-speed broadband, right? We don't get high-speed broadband to everybody. Businesses are not going to be globally competitive, and when I was a senator from New York, probably a lot of people in South Carolina don't think about New York as having rural areas, but if you look at the map of New York, much of northern New York, particularly up by the Canadian border, is very rural. And so people up there didn't have access to a lot of the opportunities that were just taken for granted around New York City. So one of my jobs as a senator was to try to get more opportunity to have more businesses, especially small businesses, be able to export more broadly, nationally and even internationally. So what I did was to work to help them set up websites and to get on the internet in the first place. So now it's 10 years, 12 years later, we have to go even further and make sure we keep up with quality, high-speed broadband everywhere in our country. So that's going to be one of my strongest points when I talk about economic opportunity for everybody, not just for those already in big cities and getting the kind of services that are already there and just wanting them to be better. No, we have to make sure everybody in the country, just like we electrified it, we have to connect it to every part of our nation.
And I'd like to also just take the opportunity to